Christ to be counted worthy to receive the crown of glory. Now this man of sin is revealed as the son of perdition, a betrayer, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God. Every deity he will raise himself up, or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. This man of sin, I believe to be the prophet, the Antichrist, the speaker, the one who can use rhetoric, words to deceive, anointed and gifted by Satan himself to deceive. And yesterday I talked about this flood that came against the precious saints that were having to go away for 1,260 days. And it said the earth helped her. One of the aspects of this flood is got to be the idea of deception coming out of the mouth, off the tongue. This is how the Antichrist is going to deceive, with the tongue. And he says he sits in the temple as God. Now, here we're going to have to struggle because there's no temple in Jerusalem. We also know that the temple is with men, the dwelling place that God has made now, this new and living way. And we talked about in 1 Corinthians chapter 3 that the temple that God has is with people. That ultimately heaven, we are in Christ, in God. We are moving in the spirit realm, and we are with God, and that is the temple of God. I don't know how all that works in the spirit realm because I'm still fleshy. So any interpretation of this text is going to have limitations, because when we talk about a temple, glory of God, temple, we're talking about things that are spiritual, and we're talking about things that are physical. I am physical, but this is decaying. This temple is decaying. It's not that pretty. It's getting older and older. But the inward man is being magnified and glorified the older I get. That's the glory, the temple, the spirit of me inside. This Antichrist, this man of sin, this son of perdition, this betrayer, is going to sit in the temple of God. Now, since man is running the show at this time, and there's a great falling away, I've got to believe that there's going to be some glorious temple that he's going to sit in and say he's God. He's going to replace all the other gods. So I would say he joins together Christian, Muslim, Jew, every religious system. He will join it all together, and he will sit in the temple. It could be Rome, Vatican. It's possible, because it would be viewed as religious and be viewed as Christ being, he would be Christ, the Antichrist, but he's the Christ. He sits there as a picture of Christ, even in his titling, even in the dogma of the church that he is the vicar of Christ. Or he could sit in Babylon with opulence and wealth on top of wealth, and a temple could be built there. Or thirdly, it could be in Jerusalem. Remember I said, these are the cities that God's going to deal with. And the only other one that might play a role is Assyria, because Assyria was the nation that destroyed the northern tribes. And God is going to take vengeance on every place. Even Egypt has a role, but Egypt has also done good things. She spared Jesus when he was a baby. It housed the people of God. God hardened Pharaoh's heart, but in the end, Egypt has been a place where people of God have gone to find retreat and refuge. Egypt is not the same kind of place as Babylon, which sacked the city. Remember, the Medes and the Persians didn't do that. Babylon destroyed the temple and carried those articles away. And Nebuchadnezzar's son was the one that God wiped out and gave his kingdom to the Medes and the Persians. But he was drinking the articles of the temple. He defiled God's holy implements of worship that were made in the spirit by spiritual people. And because he had desecrated him with his wickedness and his lecherous, covetous, evil, greedy heart, with that wicked feast that was going on, God cut him off right in that hour. So this man of sin will have a temple. He will have a place that he sits, and he will coronate himself as God. I don't believe it's the White House. Do you remember in verse 5 Do you not remember, verse 5, that when I was still with you, I told you these things? Paul had an understanding of end times better than we do today. Possibly because he went to heaven and he saw the whole thing when he was taken up by the Lord. But we have to admit that today we have less understanding than Paul did. Because right now, Paul's teaching us. And Paul said, you remember the things I told you, Thessalonians. You remember, I wrote some things and then I spoke to you things. And you're supposed to remember the words I give you because I'm hearing from God and I'm sharing with you what God is giving me. I freely receive and I freely give to you. These words were to edify you, exhort you, to comfort you, and to keep you steadfast and to keep you pressing on and becoming more and more filled with faith in the glory of God, manifesting works of love and all of that. And he says in verse 6, and now you know what is restraining, that he may be revealed in his own time. Do you know what's restraining the man of sin, the lawless one, the son of perdition? Paul's like saying, do you understand? You know, Nero, it could be. They understood that Satan was operating behind the scenes of the persecution that they were having to endure at the hands of the Roman government. Satan was operating in Nero and Domitian, or whatever it was later on. They had to deal, this is in the 50s, okay? Nero hasn't come into play, but there's other antichrists at work right now in the church. And they're working continually for 2,000 years. The spirit of Antichrist, all these antichrists are working right now. Satan is working in the sons of men. He's working in kingdoms. He's working in churches and leaders of denominations. Satan is working in Judaism. Satan is working in these heresies, these cults. He's working. He's doing it. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. Who is taken out of the way? Who's going to take him out of the way? The mystery of lawlessness. The mystery of how this all works. Mystery of Babylon. The mystery that Paul's talking about, the restoration of the Jews. It's a mystery. It cannot be comprehended in the intellect. It is a mystery that you gain access to by faith and by the realm of the Spirit. That's your passageway to understanding mysteries. Pray over this text. Seek the Lord. Pray in the Spirit. Find out what Paul's saying. Don't just run to a conference. Pray over it yourself. God will give you revelation. You got to believe that. He says in verse 8, and then the lawless one will be revealed. When Satan is taken out of the way and then enters, he now is revealed. Right now we don't know. We say Obama's the Antichrist. We say this or that. He's not the Antichrist. He's not the one. Because there's a restraining going on. And then there's going to be a selection process. And then he's going to enter in full bore into a man. I had this accusation thrown at me a few months ago that I was a false prophet. Because I don't know, because I wasn't going to the Baptist churches and I wasn't involved like in the typical churchy way. And that, I'm talking about the gifts of the Spirit and people were leveling that on me. And that man came one time to one of our Bible studies and he was very arrogant and young. And young and arrogance tend to go hand in hand, especially when you think you know more than everybody else. And that's a word I'm going to say to some of you. If you're young and you've been saved for 2, 4, 6, 8 years, you've got a lot to learn. There's so much in experience. You can learn stuff in a book and you get filled up with knowledge, and then 10 years later, if you're not walking with Jesus Christ, you're not walking in holiness, what's it really worth? Walking with God is not just what you know in your intellect. It's what you've learned of God through the experiences of your life. So if I say you need to submit to your elders, you're not submitting to an elder. You're submitting to Christ, who is working in the elder to help you prosper, to protect you.